Hi, Chag Sameach. I advise everyone to read Lukatei Halachot on Sukkot during this time, this beautiful, amazing Chag. It's personally one of my favorite Chags. You actually have to build something. I'm a hands-on person, so it's an amazing Chag, and it's something you can physically see. It's one of two mitzvahs where you can put your whole entire body into. The other one being that you're going to be living in Eretz Israel, Yishuv Eretz Israel, to dwell in the land. It's two mitzvahs. You can actually put your entire body inside a mitzvah. A lot of secrets about that alone, but we're not going to go there. I'm going to jump right now to one part where we're talking about the fallen Sukkah of David HaMelech. The fallen tabernacle, the fallen booth, I don't know if it's translated, but the fallen Sukkah of David HaMelech and what that means. Bekitzer, Reb Nassim wants to jump and tell you that it's Bechinat Malchut, and we know that Malchut, kingship, is emunah, is faith. Again, faith is always a bad word, but emunah. And that emunah is fallen, kaviyachol, during the time of our exile, during the time of Am Yisrael being pagam in our emunah, pagam in trusting in Hashem. How do we rebuild that? Simply by building our sukkah, having emunah to sit there and to dwell. The halachas tell you need to eat and sleep. Those are the two primary things you need to do, which is most of your day. Of course, you can learn your sukkah and you can do other things in your sukkah, but those two things are the primary must-be's in your sukkah, unless there's a tircha, there's a pain or something. Rav Nassim comes and brings down, when you build a sukkah and you dwell in your sukkah, you rebuild emunah, you rebuild malchut, which is also the name of Elohim. You rebuild this. And now he jumps into something amazing here. Okay, we're talking about in Chelik Dalet, the fourth perek, the fourth chapter, in the sixth paragraph, Vav. He talks about here now the fact that when you build this emunah via building the sukkah, and this is almost through any mitzvahs, all mitzvahs are kelim to build emunah, especially sukkah, because it's so difficult, especially if it's a little cold or a little troubling, especially that Hashem Yitbarach, we say one of the first mitzvahs in Shulchan Aruch, it tells us, why did he make Sukkot in the time of Tishrei? We should be in Sukkot eating matzah in the time of Nisan, on the 15th, when we eat our matzah that night. Because that's when we went outside, that's when we were in booths at that time. Because the halakha is, or one of the reasons Hashem made, is because it's too easy then. At that time, when summer is coming about, everyone wants to go on their porch and their patio. And so making a sukkah is nothing big. But when it comes to Tishrei, when it gets colder and more and close to wet, depending where you live in Israel, it's not supposed to rain until after Sukkot, but it rains in other places in the world at this time. So it's very difficult to want to go out there when it's 10 degrees, 11 degrees, or 60 Fahrenheit. But you have to, because it's a mitzvah, because Hashem wanted me to. So it's very difficult. I just added a little bit of emphasis on why this mitzvah was chosen, that it takes emunah and to sleep out there. Again, for men, it's a chiyuv. Women can make a choice. It's optional. It's a time-bound mitzvah. So they don't have to do it. And the young kids as well. But it's a great, huge mitzvah of emunah. You should take emunah with you when you do this. And Rav Nassim says, when you build and rebuild the fallen sukkah of David, you make gerim. That's one of the things that come out of it. But now, what was a part of gerim that has to do with the sukkah? Apparently, there's this great, amazing attraction from Sukkot. We even learned from the Torah itself, that the time of Sukkot is a time that even the nations, the 70 nations, will look at Am Yisrael and say, whoa, this is an amazing mitzvah. In fact, it's an easy mitzvah, it says in Masechet Avodah Zarah. It's an easy mitzvah that God made. Here, make a booth and dwell in it and enjoy however you want. Do whatever you like. Just sit in the sukkah. That's all you have to do. I didn't tell you to do anything else. So, he says, when you make gerim, there's a few things that come out of it, but the primary thing is that you're supposed to, as a non-Jew, you're supposed to run and say, I want to do this mitzvah. It's easy. It's beautiful. It's the most fun, joyous time that we see in Am Yisrael. The most funnest time you should want to join. You should want to l'chaim. And he says the following. When the non-Jews choose not to join, this is going to be the biggest problem for them. Why? Because he tells you when you build the sukkah, it's keneged, like building a shade from the sun. Not keneged, it is. But what did I mean by saying that? The sun, bechinat, represents or is corresponding to Hashem and Hashem's wisdom. And Hashem's wisdom at full light at 50 degrees will burn you and crisp you. Says the Gemara, when God decided to take the sun out of the clouds or out of its sheath, in the days to come, when Mashiach's about to come, which is representing to Hashem's wisdom, so for the tzaddikim, it's going to heal them. But for the Rashayim, it's going to burn them and be an onesh. It's going to be a tircha. It's going to kill them because it's too much. Because what does he say here in Lukat Halachot? He says that that's exactly what happens. Ribui or. There's too much light. There's great amount of light. No one can accept in one shot. You can't look at the sun. You can't accept a big light in your eyes. That's to show you the bechinat of Hashem's wisdom, of Hashem Kaviyakol himself. So you need a sukkah. You need some kind of tzimtzum. You need some kind of contraction. So one who has built a sukkah or has a sukkah, especially having the schach, is going to be protected when the sun comes out, and he's going to be able to receive the sun in a good manner, in a tzimtzum, in a corresponding manner to him, in a contraction, so that he's going to be able to accept and see him. So Reb Nassan writes here, he says that the non-Jews who choose not to build the sukkah, who choose not to be gerim, well, they're losing out on the kelim, on the vessels, for them to be able to see and perceive Hashem in Olam Haba, in the world to come. And his words are that the greatest pain, the greatest onesh that could possibly be in Olam Haba, in the world to come, is that one that doesn't have kelim, that doesn't have livushim, which is vessels and clothing to protect yourself from Hashem's light. Meaning, you say, well, I want to come close to Hashem. I want to be with Hashem. I love Hashem. Yeah, but Hashem has ways to approach him. He's like the sun, Kaviyakol. And you can't just go look and run to the sun. You will deteriorate. What are tzaddikim? No. Tzaddikim are people that constantly are building mitzvahs, Torah and mitzvahs. And yes, sometimes they don't make sense. Sometimes they're difficult. Sometimes they cause a lot of financial burden. Being in a sukkah is not the easiest thing, especially sleeping at night, I told you. That's why we use sukkah. I think Rav Nassan is using the mitzvah of building a sukkah because it is a very difficult mitzvah in some way, even though it's easy. In fact, the Gemara goes on to tell you that the non-Jews, once the sun turns a little hot, they kick the sukkah down and they say, I don't want this mitzvah and that sun, and that's why Hashem doesn't give them the Torah. But if you don't do this, you don't have vessels, you don't have livushim, you're in big trouble because now you're going to go to Gan. You maybe even made it to Olam Haba, okay? You made it to the world to come. You got out of Ginom. You made it from Gan Eden. You made the resurrection of the dead. You're now in the world to come. That's it. There's no more. But now you're like, I want to see Hashem. And Hashem says, I'm sorry. You are not able to see me because in this world you did not run, especially if you're a non-Jew, you did not run to convert. You did not run to come and see me and seek me out. Now, I'm not here to push conversion, but I'm here to say you should have ran, maybe Rav Nassan's also hinting, you should have ran to Hashem. You should have wanted to cleave to Hashem. Now, especially when this fallen sukkah of David is rebuilt, which is Keneged Mashiach, and you see him, or just before he comes, you should be running to Hashem and Torah and mitzvot and the Jewish people and Am Yisrael with all your heart and soul. And because you didn't, at such an easy time, you have no vessels to get close to Hashem. You have no vessels to be a part of Hashem. I don't know what Hashem will give you. Hashem will obviously count your good deeds for something, but mitzvahs in particular are the greatest clothing, are the greatest protection, so that you're able to now transverse the sun, the light, the wisdom, the knowledge of God. And Rav Nassan says this is the greatest onesh. The greatest pain a person can go through is you actually made it to Olam Haba with all the pain and that you went through in this life, in your previous lives, in Gi'inom, and different types of punishments. And now you can't even access Hashem. You don't have the access card to see Hashem's great, infinite, Ein Sof light because you didn't do mitzvahs, because you didn't take them seriously. You didn't have the main key, which is emunah. Mitzvahs take emunah. All mitzvot are emunah, says David HaMelech in Tehillim 119. All your mitzvot, Hashem, are emunah. It takes emunah to do them. And you need to, and if you have them, you need to do them with emunah. And building a sukkah and dwelling in a sukkah is one of the greatest mitzvahs to build this. I advise everyone to see this mitzvah with such great heart and such great fervor as Rav Nassan is trying to tell us, because this is the key to Olam Haba. And I'll finalize with this. Rabbi Nachman tells us in Sichot Haran, he says, this is the greatest pain as well. That's where Rav Nassan's getting his words from. And he says there's a little hope, and that's if you connect to the Tzaddik Emet. Because the Tzaddik Emet, and only him, He has so many mitzvahs, kaviyachol. I don't know what that means either. That he's able to give some of his mitzvahs to other yidden that didn't do mitzvahs. We're also talking about other yidden here. Reb Nassan says this applies not just to non-Jews, but also applies to yidden that choose not to do mitzvahs. Again, Jews that choose not to do mitzvahs. Jews that choose not to do mitzvahs with the munah will also lose out in the kelim and the vessels they were supposed to have to now enter Olam Haba and start to perceive God at endless levels. Rabbeinu is always telling you, I'm able to give if you connect it to me. I'll give you one little story from this. Reb Nassan asked, I think, Rabbeinu Zal, how does this work? And he gave a story of one time that there was a yid that he didn't believe in Rabbeinu Zal at all. He wasn't a Breslover at all. I don't know if he was against him or not, but he was willing to give a piece of bread to one of the Talmidim, one of the students of Rabbeinu Zal. And he said, that's enough for you to have access to my kelim, to my levushim, to give to him in Olam Haba. Because in Olam Haba, Rabbeinu Zal says in Sichot Iran, they're going to be calling for clothes and food. And good people, good Jews in Olam Haba, and maybe good non-Jews, are going to say, here, we want to give to you food. And they're going to say, no, we're not asking for physical food and physical clothes and physical vessels. We need spiritual clothing and spiritual vessels. And that is the greatest pain. Rabbeinu Zal says you have no idea the pain and anguish one will go through when he sees what he's missing. Imagine an example of this, just to put it more into perspective. Every day you go to work, or you're told to go to work, and you don't take work seriously. You're supposed to be there at 9, you show up at 9:05, 9:10, 9:30. Sometimes you show up late, sometimes you don't show up at all, etc. But the boss is like, it's okay. You show up and you do your work, or you do something anyway. That's why I keep you involved. But he says at the end of the month, if you had just shown up every day, on time, not even early, on time, you would have had a certain level of access to $100,000. And if you were to show up 5 minutes early because you had faith that you should be a faithful worker, or 10 minutes early and did a little extra work, I would have given you $10 million. And if you did this every day of the month without any mistake, I would have given you $1 billion and paid for everything you absolutely need and more. All this gold and riches could have been yours if you just showed up to work on time faithfully. That's what God is saying, but I can't give that to you now. Only the tzaddik emet possibly can lend some of his quadrillion dollars to you if you're connected to him. But still, Reb Nassan said earlier here, and says in other places, many places, that the eitzot, the advice of the tzaddik emet, you must do in order to be attached to the tzaddik emet, or do something for the Talmidim, or something for Breslov in general. This is so big to attach yourself to a tzaddik emet, to the tzaddikim, that they have some ability, or the ability, to give you their clothing, so that you'll be able to access further levels in Olam Haba. Because Olam Haba is so big, we don't understand. Olam Haba is forever, it's eternity. And whatever you do here is going to be your eternal reward. So I beg and plead that you look into doing more things for Hashem. If you're a non-Jew, if you're a Jew, to make shuvah, to come back. If you're a frum Jew, to put more emunah into your avoda. He's screaming at you here, and Sukkot is the most beautiful time to do that. Spend more time in your sukkah. Go learn Torah in your sukkah. Go eat in your sukkah. Even if you have to just sit there and just look out your door, then sit there, because every moment, every second you're in your sukkah, you're gaining millions of emunah dollars. Chag Sameach.